Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the metal markets. I'm Market Stalker D. We have the random NFP day today, so one day before you guys break for Independence Day. So we'll see what that brings. Right now, London has been very muted on the metals. We have some movement in crude, but I don't know. We'll see. Hate being long crude. So maybe if it kind of pumps somewhere higher, maybe we can have a look at shorting it. Copper is in a range bound situation. Again, not too unusual because we do have the NFP, so everybody's probably just waiting for that. Inside value, inside a big sort of HVN here. That means that I would need to focus on the edges of this until proven otherwise. So yeah, maybe if gold decides to break down below this weak 40.75 level, but we do have the NFP, so it's not going to be the biggest trade. If we do find one pre-NFP, it's going to need to be one of those quicker trades rather than hold trades until the cows come home, which may happen later after NFP, but we'll see. Let's have a look at who's in chat. Say hi to everybody. We have DJ Runs, Rob, Ava, City Sarah, Boyd, Short Story Vibes, Nanka, Random Channel. Am I scalping? Well, you know, I only scalp when there's nothing else available, right? So I don't do the scalping all the time. In fact, I would classify myself more of a swing trader intraday, aiming to kind of capture as much as possible. But obviously, if there's nothing on the cards of that sort, yeah, we have to scalp. You know, you have to be flexible. Dave Spiral Life is here. Dan Brooke says, Oi Gov, why do, I'm gonna guess you are American, right? Why do you all do this like Oliver Twist sort of thing from like 1800s, 1900s? Nobody talks that way these days. Everybody say, hey mate, and things like that. Oi Gov. Nobody, like I've never, ever heard anybody say that in the entirety of the 26 years that I've been in London. And no, I'm not 26. I moved here when I was 20. So do the math. Nanka is asking, where are the shades? Where are the shades and the attitude? So should we do that? So I don't know how much I'm going to be trading since we do have NFP. And I did put my, you know, makeup on for you guys. But hey, we can do the shades, right? I'm actually not feeling too terrible today. I think I'm over the whole expo tiredness and stuff. So that's good. But hey, we can do, you know, style. Am I a full-time trader? Yes. I became a prompt trader in 2013. And I have been trading since 2007 with my own cash. But then in 2013, I thought to myself, I really like this. I actually want to make this into a career. So I stopped being a session musician, and that was going really well for quite a long time. However, I got a little bit tired of the music industry. So yeah, pretty much gave up the music industry and went into a brick and mortar prop firm. And here we are, so many years later. Still here. Are we still on for Asia Live next week? Yes. So I will be aiming to start the stream half an hour after Tokyo happens. So the idea there is that we have a mini heat wave. It's not going to be terrible like the one that we just had, because that was just unworkable. Like even in the middle of the night, it was like super hot. But yeah, next week I'm going to be starting 1:30 a.m. England time. So extrapolate that for your own time zone, wherever you are in the world. And then we can do, for me, that's effectively going to be Wednesday morning effectively, but Tuesday night for a lot of you, or Tuesday evening. And then we're going to do the same on Thursday. So we're going to have 2 Globex sessions. So we can, so I can explain to you how I approach Asia, because it is a little bit different. The profiles don't quite work the same way. It's not the same thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be good. Definitely on for Asia. So I'm going to put a post up in the community section, and then obviously I will schedule the 2 things for the new Globex time, and I'm going to put Tokyo session, like, so that everybody sort of knows what's going on. So which assets do I trade the most? So I'm a commodities trader. That means usually that I typically have about 4, 5, or 6 of them. I trade copper a lot, so I would say the copper at the moment is probably my main one. Most of my career I traded crude oil. Crude oil went dead on us about circa 2023, and now it came back with all this nonsense that we have with Trump and Iran and everything that's happening. I don't know, the crude oil looks like it might want to break out. We have a nice sort of gamma level. That's a moderate put support at 67, so maybe they want to hunt that. Do we have time? I mean, we have about 90 minutes, don't we? Let's have a look at BOOKMAP. What does that look like? So yeah, I trade copper, gasoline futures, crude oil, nat gas, gold. Do I have another metal that I trade? So aluminium is sometimes good, but you can't trade them on prop firms. So yeah, but yeah, copper is my main one. I love copper. It's like really smooth. It doesn't have dramatic, you know, spiky price action, which annoys the hell out of me. And out of the equities, I keep an eye on ES and DAX. DAX I do trade occasionally. That's the German 40 biggest. So it's kind of like the ES equivalent, but only in Germany. But then when it comes to things like NQ, can't stand the thing. In fact, the tape gives me migraines. Like, I try and look at NQ and I'm like, oh, no. And I always say, whoever's obsessed with NQ, if you're struggling with NQ, it's probably time to move on. NQ giveth and NQ taketh for like 90% of the people. There are folk out there like Rips, Nick for a Tick. They are very unusual people. So, you know, they are very calm. I know the Rips doesn't look super calm, but trust me, he's very controlled, and like he can regulate his emotions very nicely. I don't know, man. This crude oil looks like it's gonna break out. Like, look at that. That's tagging CVD 0. I mean, I don't know. If we get some commitment, maybe we do. Maybe we do some Tradify accounts. There we go. We don't need a super big stop loss. We only need 35 ticks or so. Why am I the only person in London with an AC? The heat wave was a breeze. Look, I've got an AC here. It's like one of those portable ones, but just like most buildings, as you know, they're protected, right? So they are not really happy if you want to do like split systems, because it ruins the look of the building, right? And if you are living in an apartment, that's like, unless they actually built the building with the AC, there is zero chance. I'm just gonna put like all 3 of these because I want to have my eyes on all of them. Gold is tagging VWAP right now. Neutral date type. Ugh. Would need a bigger screen. Right, we can smush them. We can smush 3 of them. Can I move this? Yeah, okay. So yeah, copper a bit boring. Barcode, barcode, barcode. What's going on with correlation between copper and crude oil? They're not correlated. And gold and crude oil? Also not very correlated. That is what I like to see. Alright, so we have a little bit of liquidity here. Let's try short. At least down to this 67 level. Can we maybe do more than one account? Let's see. Bit of a pushback there from the initial bounce low. But yeah, I would prefer to be short crude oil because look at the daily. Let's have a look at the daily actually. Let's do our hypothesis, shall we? I mean, yeah, I don't want to long this, right? So there's really nothing. It's looking very, very downtrendy to me. Is that a word? Let's have a look at a 4-hour time frame. Again, 4-hour drop base drop. Tagging the Asia low here, so yeah. This would be a single-sided extension. We haven't really popped all the way back up to the value, and in fact if I switch on the New York value, so I'm just going to put a little rectangle here so that I can show you, because I don't know how much you can see on the actual stream, but this is the NYMEX value, right? So it kind of is reactive during London as well. That's something that crude oil does specifically. So it never actually managed to accept the value from NYMEX yesterday. It's not to say that it won't, but that's exactly where the Asia high was created as well. So I don't know, to me this is all looking a little bit still skewed to the downside. And if we can actually get a move, like a bit of a shakeout downwards before the NFP, that would be a nice little start to the day. Because obviously the bots traded, I didn't. This is literally like the first trade that I'm doing myself. And if you're new here, I am kind of a combination of algorithmic and discretionary trading. So obviously I do have some bots, but I still like to click buttons. So every so often I will be just looking at the chart and doing what all of you do, right? Trying to figure out what the auction is doing and whether I can find anything that makes sense for this particular time of day. Now, the caveat here is that usually the setup that is the best on crude oil for this time of day would be the one that extends the initial balance already by this time of the day, and then I fade that. So that is something that happens around about 65% of the time when it does happen. So it works. It's not like something that happens every day, but if the initial balance gets extended by about over 1 time the size of the initial balance, you then have a pretty good chance, 65% chance, that whatever they're doing at that point, they're going to fade it back towards the initial balance for London into NYMEX, right? But we don't have that. And failed auctions for this time of the day, nah, very sketchy. So we'll see if we can get maybe a pump lower. And crude oil volatility has kind of fallen a little bit. All right, let's have a look at more chat. City Sarah says you look cool. Yeah. Good morning, Joe. Good morning. Good to see you. Juicy Thomas says, damn, you definitely don't look 46. The lights forgive a lot. My eyes have aged a lot. Like my, if you were to like meet me in real life, I have a lot of lines like here and there. So, and I've actually lost like 20 pounds since, I don't know like what's going on there, but yeah, I wasn't big to begin with, trust me. But then, I don't know whether it's the fresh air or whether it's like whatever is happening to me right now. But yeah, I just randomly just dropped a whole bunch of weight out from nowhere. And no, it's not cancer, they checked. Alright, so tape is still kind of fighting here. They're not really making a decision. There is a chance that they do absolutely fuck all until NFP, so we need to keep that in mind. So I think I'm just going to keep this to... How many accounts do I have here? I'm running this. Just one. Okay. Let's execute a little bit more. Add to this. Let's go this one. Bit of apex action here. Again, smaller targets, so we're not looking for huge positions. And maybe, just maybe, let's run another Tradify. Right, so that's kind of like nicely partialed. This is how, you know, I look at scaling into larger positions, right? So rather than plopping in the position at like all the same time, I will use different accounts as if they're part of the same account. And then you kind of scale at different points, and then you obtain a position of whatever I'm running at the moment. So let's see, that is, this is 3 lots at the moment. Let's do 4 lots actually. Let's add another account to this mix. There we go. 4 lots. And that one also needs to be closer to 67 here. Okay. And I very rarely copy trade. A joint session for Asia Open with one of your former colleagues. Yeah, I mean, maybe I can reach out to, let me see. Let's see who would be available. I mean, I suppose Hoop trades a lot of Asia. Hoop and I talk a lot. Coach Hoop. We've known each other for like 11 years, since the days of, what do you call it? Days of Top Step Squawk Radio. So this was way, way, way back in the olden days. And is there anybody else? Let me see. I know that Aaron's moved back to Australia, but I think he does his own thing. So, you know, it's a bit complicated if we're both going to be doing the Asia session, you know. Who else trades Asia? I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure whether Anne-Marie trades a lot of the Asia session. I think she's mainly US hours. But yeah, maybe I could ask Hoop. That would be a cool little sesh. ASIM says, dude, right now my trade was stopped out after 7 a.m. shakeout. Well, 7 a.m. shakeout, if you're talking England time, that's when the Shanghai Power Hour starts. And usually they fade it. So that is the dangerous time of day if you're doing breakout trades. Again, in my methodology, we are super, super big on the time of day, because, you know, it happens like every single day. When you start looking at the commodities in a very structured way, you start to realize how often these events happen. And they're not random. They're actually very mechanical because of dealer hedging. They have to do that, right? So if you're tagging, you know, the final sort of hour of Shanghai, and you are looking to run a continuation trade, that's quite possibly the rarest occurrence, where they just kind of keep going and break out. They're closing the exchange, right? The exchange is coming to an end. What's going to happen? Well, they have to close out some positions. So now obviously these take profit moves, they will be varying in strength, power, and size, but they do happen all the time. So yeah, put structure behind it, man. Which broker do I use? So I personally use AMP. However, I don't like to trade personal accounts here because I very rarely trade them completely like discretionary. So it's always like a combination of, you know, bots and then maybe a bit of me, and it's never at this time of day. Usually my personal trading, I kind of do it in the last sort of 3 hours of the electronic trading, and then sometimes I do Asia. But very rarely will I like smash trades in on my personal account. So these are prop accounts because everybody can buy them, right? Everybody can get themselves, you know, a couple of Tradeify accounts, maybe 2 or 3 of Apexes, which is kind of what I've got. I usually run 7 or 8 of them. And I don't particularly get married to the accounts either. Because these days, the way prop is going, you can't even build large balances. So I kind of try and rack up a pretty decent cushion in the first few days. And that's kind of the dangerous part. Once that's in there, I just basically try to keep the accounts alive for long enough to basically get about 4 or 5 payouts out of it, and then I basically start again. Because I've been live with Top Step twice, and that was when the live programs across the board were actually very rare and much better. Now it's like we're in a big sort of weird change that the prop is going through, and it's necessary because I think it was a bit of a wild west, and it still is, but we want to, you know, get to a point where things are stable, everybody kind of knows what will work, what won't work, and it's a huge kind of transitional period. Those are always very painful. So, you know, I will be trying to avoid the live accounts if I can help it, because I've got my own, so it's like, yeah. But, you know, if I end up in another live account somewhere, it is what it is. You know, you can always get more prop accounts from another firm where you've never been before. Since we're talking prop, let me splash my code here. Grasshoppers. You can also buy Edgewonk. That's a journaling platform that I quite like. And then you can use Grasshoppers with Tradeify, Trade Day, and yes, Apex as well. Apex were actually very kind to invite me to the expo. So I was there courtesy of Apex. So I hung around their booth. Most of the time I went and said hi and had drinks with Trade Day, James Thorpe. Spoke to Brett from Tradeify after he finished his speech. So he was in the backstage. He's a sweetheart. Like he's so amazing. He's very personable. I didn't quite expect that. Like I knew that he was a, you know, cool guy, but he was like super huggy and everything. And I was like, ooh, okay. God. And I get a little bit awkward when I don't know people and they're like hugging me. All right, so we've got some traction here on this crude oil trade. I like that it's not being like super quick. So yeah, let's see if we can grab a few more ticks into this NFP business. Hold on, let me make this bookmap window a little bit smaller. Okay, here we go. Because we're focusing on crude oil. I know it's called the metal markets, but I do trade energies as well. How do I use copper? Funny you should ask that. I actually have a whole blog post on how copper behaves. Another thing, you may have noticed if you are on my newsletter, we kind of went back to the old / new website. So basically back in the day in 2019, when we first started with Market Stalkers, we were parked on marketstalkers.co.uk. And then a few years later, we decided to move the learning platform to an actual dedicated learning platform. So we went to Thinkific, and then I migrated the entire website to only be on Thinkific. But I never connected like the old domain to it, and then I got sick, and then it just all kind of stayed in limbo where it was on Thinkific. Well, since I'm on new meds, and obviously my chronic illness is under amazing control, so my brain just went nuts, and you know, I started doing so many things, and I decided to move the website back. But as a result, we now have a very beautiful modern website. However, Thinkific is still where all of your courses live, right? So this sign-in button will still take you to Thinkific. That has not changed. It's just like the front sort of facing website is now here. So if you go to blog on this marketstalkers.co.uk, there will be a blog post. At the moment there's only 3. I plan to do a lot more. But there's a blog post on market profile on copper futures. So it's about a 20-minute read, and it's extremely detailed, and it tells you everything that you need to know about how copper moves, why it moves, when it moves, and what you should do with it. Okay? So instead of me spending, you know, the next 20-30 minutes explaining all of that that's in the blog already, that's what this is for. It's completely free. It's a free read. You know, this is just something that needs to be out there because I want more people trading copper and micro copper. And yet it's one of those things where people are like, you can trade copper? It's like, yeah. And it's a travesty that not more people are trading it. It's not a very speculative product, so you're not going to get like 1,000 ticks out of it. But it moves a very respectable 200 to 300 ticks. Okay, there is a trick to it. There is a volatility gate that you have to keep in mind, but that's all in the blog. I am going to drop this blog in chat, okay? Calvin says good morning. Good morning, Calvin. Good to see you. MPC is here as well. Alexiostas in Cyrillic. Yes, I can read Cyrillic because I'm Serbian originally. Zaid says, good morning, always good to tune in. How did I make bots on NinjaTrader? So I made them through C#. So it's not like you make them in NinjaTrader. You basically create C# code, and then you effectively create a strategy, and then that strategy you can load up into Ninja, and you can switch them on and off. So for example, like my whole thing is quite crazy, but for example, you can see some of my bots here, right? So if you want to switch them on and off, you go to enabled, and then you click on and off. So I usually run about 3 of them for Asia. So 3 different strategies for Asia. Then I run 2, one on crude oil, one on copper for London for the Asia high-low swipe and reverse. Then I have only one bot running for the later part of the session, but that's mainly because I like to trade that part of the day, so I don't want the bots like messing with things. So yeah, most of the time I can switch the bots on and just go and sleep, so that's nice. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm up five grand overnight. And I'll tell you, that was the dream back in the day, and now it's here, 20 years on. And I've always had algorithms, but not quite for my own personal use. It was always like, or something that we built for an institution or something. Somebody asked us to create something. All right, we're getting a nice push. 67, 67. Come on. So yeah, after this is done, whatever the resolution is to this trade, I'm probably going to wait until NFP shakes out and then maybe see what the London close does. Because sometimes you get a very nice reversal opportunity even after NFP. But yeah, NFP I never trade into for a multitude of reasons, because I do have live accounts, and unfortunately with live accounts, if there's nobody on the other side to take your order, that tends to become a little bit painful. So one FOMC, I got stuck in a position that went my way initially, but then the take profit didn't work, and then it came all the way back and smacked me in the face. And that was a painful day. But it only, like, it was a horrendous amount of money, but comparatively it was only about like 10% of the entire pot. So still painful, but it was a 6-figure smack on the face. So yeah. Since then, I do not trade live accounts into open positions. Whenever we have a massive release on our hands. So yeah. Do prop firms allow bots? Yes, some of them. Okay, so I know that Lucid doesn't. I know that Alpha doesn't. I know that Take Profit doesn't, so I can't trade with those. Actually, I'm not sure about Lucid. Lucid might allow them. However, if the strategies are yours, based on your models, not like commercially distributed, you know, some random signal service that you bought on Discord, those are not allowed in any shape or form, okay? But if, for example, you have a strategy and you can kind of code, or you hire somebody else to code for you, and you create a strategy by yourself, Tradeify, Apex, and Trade Day are, and Topstep as well, but I don't like their API. And, you know, they took away the NinjaTrader from me, so that's not great for me. And I just couldn't, I don't know, that, you know, I have a lot of products that I look at, and not being able to undock the windows, that's a massive dent in my workflow, right? So I stick to Ninja. So you can do algorithmic trading, no problem, if it's your own, and you coded it, and it is your model, you didn't steal it from anywhere, and you didn't buy it commercially. Tradeify, Trade Day, Apex, and Topstep are absolutely fine with you running bots. With Topstep, if you're on a live account, when I was in a live account, they didn't allow bots, so I got into the XFA and I made 40K in the space of like 30 days, withdrew 20K, and then they put me live with the remaining 20K. And then I found out that the API key is only designed for XFAs. It doesn't work on live. So that was another like sort of slap in the face. Yeah, so I wasn't very happy about that. And but yeah, they allow algorithmic trading. So yeah, for me, I always make sure whenever I'm considering a prop firm, I always make sure that they are okay with personal, non-commercial, yours truly, bots. Right, we're coming into some liquidity here on crude oil. And usually on crude, they like to take that. So unsurprisingly, there's a number of contracts, so 82 contracts sitting right at that 67 level where the strong put is. And we should be able to smack through that, but sometimes they start to hedge away from it, ahead of it. However, because on the large time frames we are pointing downwards, I think we have a pretty decent chance of them not hedging there. And this is all just new territory, so you can see the volume profile here. We actually haven't been here in years, right? So we have not been down at 67 since like before, way before the war started. So yeah. Donna says hello, hello, hello. How are you? How does someone get started with bots? I mean, look, dude, I've been coding since I was like 16, 17. Ever since HTML started, they came out in 97, and that's when I started nerding out over websites. So this is why I'm pretty good at various things, but I've never worked as a coder, right? I've always been sort of on the, I'm a musician, and yes, I'm a nerd as well. And that kind of translated over the years into finance, whatever I was doing. And I still maintain that I'm not the best coder in the world, but when it comes to utilities and when it comes to bots and anything that doesn't need to like show graphics, I'm actually very, very functional, and I love doing it. Absolutely love it. But you know, in order to start with bots, MPC, you would probably need to understand code. Not like, you know, you don't have to be like a rock star coder or anything like that, but you do need to understand basics. So maybe if you're not a coder, then, you know, that's where I would start. But if you are a coder, you would start with having good time series data. That's step one. So you will need a service. There is one that is not super expensive, and it does provide tick data. Let me see which one I came across. It was Data Bento. They're not like, because you know, before, back in the day, if you wanted like super high quality tick data, that was like arm and a leg. Nowadays, you do have people who are you know, fairly. Let's have a look at the pricing. I thought that when I saw them, when I looked at the pricing, yeah. So again, tick data is never going to be like cheapest chips, right? So the standard one starts from like 200, but if you only want, let's say one, let's just say crude oil futures, and then let's say that you want the 1 minute data, and then depends on the date range as well. So let's go 6 months. Yeah, so that would be pretty cheap. So one product for 6 months, 1 minute data, open, high, low, close, and volume, it would cost you 20 bucks. Yeah. So that would be step one. Once you have that, now these days you do have AI to help you, but you have to know how to create a decent backtest and a decent system design. So it's not just about the backtest. A lot of, like, I've never seen a bad backtest, okay? They all look amazing. And then you run them in real markets and they just completely break down. And then people are like, why did that happen? It's because a backtest is not the same, and it's not due to slippage. It's not, you know, there's a lot of people who accidentally overfit the backtests. So I always start from like the very basics. How much time we got? Okay. So very basic stuff, like for example, how reactive, like let's use a very, very basic strategy. How reactive is VWAP on, let's say, gold? So you have to attach some sort of conditions to it. You can't just ask AI, well, how reactive is VWAP on gold? You need to define, for example, how much distance do you want the prices to have away from VWAP in order for you to qualify the return to VWAP as something that is viable, as a potential, let's say, continuation. Then once you have that, that's the basic backtest. So you don't have a stop loss, you don't have any time stops, you don't have any take profits, nothing. It's literally just a bare backbone of how often does this happen. It almost like counts the times that it's happened without overcomplicating things. Now, once you get to the next stage, you now have to decide what stop loss size you're going to use. And this is again where, you know, where strategies can make or break, right? So you can have a too tight of a stop loss that completely eradicates anything that this particular strategy can do. You can also ask the AI to sweep the stop loss sizes, but the way I do things, I always have something that is volatility based. So I never go standard stop loss like, oh yeah, I'm just using 35 ticks and or bust. I always have a way to scale the stops to whatever the market regime is doing at the time. So we do use combination of implied volatility from the options chain. Sometimes I will just use a simple ADR and average session range. That's basically like ADR, but it's my concept where you look at the previous 10 days and then you get the average of it, and then it will be a portion of that number that represents my stop loss size. Then we generally have another way of doing it, which is looking at the ATR, if it's like some kind of an intraday strategy that is not really banking on running like a swing for several hours, but it's just like a more reactionary sort of like liquidity sweep and a reversal. That will be typically using ATR. So, you know, there's plenty of ways to skin a cat, but you have to find the stop loss that will survive the best, and then you will have to get to a point where you say to it, sweep the profit target, and then you have to decide what you want. Do you want a bot that trades very rarely but has a very high accuracy and a high risk reward? Those are, you know, very rare. So I would probably say that those kinds of strategies will only trade maybe once a month, if that, and it's like, oh, it's an intraday strategy, but it never trades. So I usually go for middle ground. I go for strategies that can happen almost every single day or every single night, because Asia is, you know, something that I code for a lot. And I want the setups to happen on most evenings. But that also means that I'm happy to accept that on some days we're going to have like 45-50% accuracy. Depends again on the volatility regime. And then also I need to figure out what to do with the target. So is it a time stop or is it a pure price-based target? Is it a combination of both? Depends, right? So once you have all of that in place, you have the beginnings of your first algorithm, and it's super exciting. You know, I spend hours, just hours. You know, if you go on my Instagram, I was literally trying to figure out whether a trending discretionary strategy of me using VWAP as a continuation has any sort of merit to become a mechanical strategy. I'm still on the fence about that, because it's like it came up with a pure mechanical result of 40%, and I'm like, but it's clearly not 40% when I'm doing it, so what's different? And the difference is the context. You as a human can take in a whole bunch of context that a robot won't be able to, and we frequently forget about that. Everybody's like, yeah, no, this works. But then you've also seen that maybe Asia has made a higher high. Maybe, you know, you notice that there were single prints left on the profile in London. So therefore you're basing your pullback, but then you try and test that, and the conditions around the context are so vastly different that it just doesn't make any sense to write a bot around it. So it's very important that you realize what is your human discretionary side that is thinking this is a mechanical thing, but then actually it has nothing to do with mechanics. It's just like you seeing stuff, because we are very complicated computers, right? Very complicated. We're biological computers. And what our brains can do, at the moment, AI cannot. Not yet. I'm not going to say never, because if they manage to replicate the amount of neurons that we have, then we're fucked. But we're not there yet. Dentistix says, Heidi, currently trying out your Blahtech GL indicator. Any tips how to utilize it to the fullest? So the Blahtech GL, so you can see I have those levels on my chart as well. Ooh, interesting. It just updated. Let me move this. Okay, so let's make this bigger. Let's move this P&L out of the way because we're still waiting. We're just literally sitting at scratch, up and down, while we wait for crude oil to do something. All right, so what is the GL? Obviously, it's gamma levels, right? So how do we use them? You have to understand the dealer hedging pressure, right? So, for example, today, we have a negative gamma. How do I know that? It is on the indicator. So it says negative gamma. Why? Because the gamma flip is all the way up at 71. So what does that mean? It means that the levels that you're looking at in a negative gamma environment probably won't be respected. So they will be broken through. Maybe reclaimed, but a lot of them would just be broken through. Very spiky. So why? It's because the dealer hedging pressure in a negative gamma amplifies the trending moves. We saw that yesterday on gold. Gold went absolutely nuts. And during Asia, the gamma flip was actually below the price. And then as London opened, gamma flipped all the way to like 41.40 or something. And it works both ways. It's not a directional indicator. So it can go up and down. It can be up volatile, down volatile. But the whole thing to take from that basic readout is that when you have negative gamma, dealers have to hedge with the movement, not against it. So therefore you get a long, they will hedge with the long. You get a short, they will keep hedging with the short. So those are the days where you see the market completely get irrational and everybody who doesn't know about dealer pressure is going, whoa, what's going on? I don't know, it can't possibly keep going. And that's what's going on. It can keep going because the dealers are amplifying the whole situation. So that's the first step. Second step is that whenever you have my levels, now I filter for the most interesting levels. So I don't just use any and every gamma level like most companies. I'm not interested in that. I'm literally only interested in the ones that have some sort of an anomaly around it. So what does that mean? I look at Greeks, implied volatility, and open interest. So I basically have an algorithm that smushes all of those together, and then it spews out the most interesting levels with those anomalies. Now, typically those anomalies are prices of interest. They're not necessarily, oh, we're going to bounce. It doesn't have to bounce from a level, again, in negative gamma. You wouldn't expect necessarily a bounce from this 67 moderate put. But in theory, it is a support area of some sort. However, I would be more comfortable taking any longs from here if we had positive gamma environment, because positive gamma is not kind of very trending environment. It's actually very conducive to the mean reversion moves. So when you come across, let's say, a put support, you would be trying to see whether there's any interest there in order for them to take it back the other way. Now, I'm not saying that in a negative gamma environment you won't have reactions from these levels, from the put support, but you don't expect them to last. Okay, so that's the difference. So you basically get this like whole context from the options chain through levels, very simple levels on the chart. And it's beautiful. Now, if you come across a big gamma wall, again, there isn't regime to consider. But generally, my rule is that, let's say if we keep falling, and we get to this 65 gamma wall, I would actually be looking to maybe run a very late day long from there. Doesn't matter what sort of day it was. But if the time of day matches and we haven't been able to smash through a big gamma wall by, let's say, half an hour before NYMEX closes, I will fade that. Because there's no more. Like the dealers are maybe now overhedged, so they have to like take some off and things like that, right? So this is a topic that is, again, pretty deep, and it does take a little while to get the grips with the dealer hedging. But yeah, so my levels basically just filter for the biggest ones, and I match them with the auction theory, with my own playbooks that I modified for the commodities markets, open sentiment, average ranges, like how much average range do we traverse already on the day, Are we exhausting any of them? And then after all of that is in my plan, I will make a decision what to do with it. All right, we have 40 whole minutes until NFP. They didn't change the time of NFP, did they? It's just the day, right? It's still at 1:30 my time. I'm gonna double check. Yeah, okay, cool. Trading Nichols says, random walk, thyroid issue. No, I actually have an amazing thyroid for my age, especially. There's no obvious issue. I just think that I was in polluted London, and therefore I came here in fresh air. I am on good medication as well, so I'm more active. So that could be it. Trading Nickel says, crazy, not the same, but we do have some interesting health similarities. I randomly dropped a good 20 pounds too a couple of months back. I've been working out a lot and have put most of the weight back. Interesting. But my waist is about the same, so hopefully muscle. Yeah, that would be definitely muscle. Definitely. Trading Nickel says, I imagine 20 pounds for me being about 10% is quite different than it is for you. Yeah, by the way, I'm very small, right? I'm 5'1". If I had lost, so yeah, that's about, I'd say about a quarter of my my overweight. No, maybe a fifth, yeah. CL price facing bottom support at 67.41. Yeah, we are expecting actually the momentary reaction from 67, right? Because they never slice through moderate put support that easily. There's always some sort of a pivotal reaction, as I like to refer to them. And then they fail, and then they just go, whoosh, and then they smash through it. And you have to be able to, you absolutely have to be able to, if you're going to aim for bigger movement, right? Bigger movement. You have to add time into the mix. And you have to be able to sit through some drawdowns and, you know, have a stop loss that can handle them and then just leave it alone and just go, okay, whatever. Let's just live with it, right? And time is basically what generally brings the bigger targets. So, you know, if I want to go for, let's say, 100 ticks on crude oil, I have to consider that is only going to happen in 3 hours time. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen in 2 minutes or 30 minutes. You have to just sit on the trade and be okay with drawdowns. Ava says, D, so the breakout of initial balance is not that important for the London session for you to enter. No, not really. So because the London session for crude oil in particular is actually more of a fake out than anything else, although you do have these moments where they break the initial balance, move away from it, come back to the edge, and then keep going, basically joining the sustained auction from the retest of the IB low. That's what we will be looking for here. But in cases of copper, you basically fade any exit from the initial balance, regardless whether it's Tokyo, COMEX, or London. So copper is just like fade me instrument, right? And you can see that even today. So we tried to get outside of value, looked really good, right? But then and it goes all the way down, straight back into the initial balance, and then does nothing. Then just hangs and hangs and hangs, and now it's kind of livening up. But, you know, because we have NFP, I doubt that anything is going to happen in copper until that's over and done with. The only times that you could possibly do breaks of initial balance is upon a return back to value. So we open with a gap, and then it decides to turn around, and it goes literally back to the value area. Mean reversion. In all other situations, if you're directional, I aim for pullbacks, okay? The one thing that I hate doing is initial balance breakout trades when we're already away from value. And it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm making shit up. It's because it hasn't worked for me, right? Just hasn't worked for me. Right, so this one is sitting at 260, but remember we are in with 4 lots across different prices and different things. So what I would like to see now is that they actually fail in the attempt of a reversal, and that liquidity is still sitting down at 67. So I wish that I could have another camera that's like kind of, or maybe just like a screen so that I can use my little pointer finger. I've actually made one video on Instagram explaining the setup with it. I think it's quite funny. We're going to bring some entertainment into this business, right? So yeah, that liquidity is still sitting a little bit smaller. It was like, what, 82? Now it's 79. So pretty much the same amount of contracts. So I want to wait until that's smashed. That is definitely a draw, a magnet. So we just need to wait and see. Wait and see whether we can smash into it before NFP, and if we don't, then I'm just gonna close it and wait. Trading Nickel says Hoop and Vince did do a lot of Asia teaching when Thompson was running Discord lessons. Yeah, I know. So yeah, maybe I'll get, because I do chat to Vince as well. Yeah, maybe I'll drag them over. Come, let's trade. And you never know. Maybe we end up doing something together, you know? Aaron now does Asia sessions. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I know, because again, I do chat to Aaron as well. So we're all in, you know, we're all in contact still. Because we're all kind of friends and colleagues, you know. It's not like, oh yeah, we'll never speak to each other again. We worked together for 3 years, and Coach Ray, he's one of my market stalkers. I have known Ray since 2019. Carlos says, if the CL price is able to break down the support 67.41, 67.27, it could drop. Those are some random ass numbers, dude. So let me just give you a little pointer about crude oil. So crude oil loves round numbers and quarters, okay? So it likes, for example, 66.75. If it breaks through 67, usually you have those quarter points that will be reactive instead if it's going to bounce. It also loves smashing through the gamma relevant levels and then reclaiming them. But there is, in my eyes, you know, there's absolutely zero need for people to go so pedantic on crude, because it's like, and you never see that anywhere in institutional trading. Nobody ever, wherever I worked in the brick and mortar prop firms, they would be like, oh, what's your target? 66, 24 3/4. It's like, I've only seen that in the retail community, right? It's like, what's your target? And they give me a weird ass number, and I'm like, why? You have a perfectly good like gamma wall there, like what? Why not 67? Why 66.91? Why? If it's 66.91, why not 66.90? You know, what is the 1 cent all about? So yeah, that's like a very new thing that I've noticed in the futures retail community, where everybody's so super obsessed to get like these crazy accurate targets, and I'm always like, why? But yeah, negative gamma, I do agree with you. We should see a move through 67 and towards the gamma wall at some point, and we still have a lot of daily range left. So we still have average daily range exhaustion all the way down at 66.30, right? And then a further move to 66 might be a little bit too much for today. But, you know, we've had bigger days, obviously. And the NFP, it is kind of reactive on crude oil, but it is not like, oh wow, it's like, you know, the biggest release ever. Like it sort of gets a little jumpy, but it's not going to be like gold and equities. Nowhere near. It just kind of reacts, and then it's like, okay, cool. The end, I do whatever I like. So it's not necessarily the best product for you to get the most reaction out of the NFP release, right? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I might run out of time. So I'm gonna give it a few more minutes here and then just kill this, because we are getting close to the NFP, and we can watch NFP together, but I'm not gonna be in any positions. I'm just gonna keep an eye on tape here. And one thing I will do, I'm gonna protect the position because I don't want to lose more. No, you know what? Let's just flatten everything and actually get... Did that work? Okay. So, we clawed back about 400. That's all right. And now we can sit and wait to see what NFP is going to do. So, with NFP, what I'm probably going to do, I'm going to wait until everything settles down, and then I'm going to see what copper does later on. I really want copper to get out of this fucking range here, because it's really annoying me. And then once it makes a move, hopefully when gold starts moving as well, maybe I'll get the major trade for the day, because this is all just partials, right? So Asia bots lost some. I've just clawed it back. Bots should thank me. But yeah, I still need like one major trade for the day that's gonna push the day into positive. And if it doesn't, if I don't see anything, I'm actually just gonna take this. Now remember, this is like 8 accounts together, and you know, that's like nothing. It's literally sitting at scratch. So we are talking 156 minus on one, 89 minus on one, $9 positive on another, $52 positive on another, 61. So it's like all literally just barely scratch across the board. But yeah, now we're getting too close to the NFP, so you have to be flat. Okay, CL trashed me today as my bias was long since Thursday and weekly range is above. We never really broke out, but I was taking my reversal setups as we rejected initial balance low in Asia and London. Let me have a look. The trouble is, though, well, we were under the range, so that's, you know, that was a gap, but to me it was just like, I don't know, the value low is pretty reactive on like COMEX value low. It tends to be reactive throughout all the sessions. So, and it wasn't a clean, you know, you had Asia going down, then you had Shanghai going up, then you have the Asia low, Tokyo low grab and a reverse, and then all the way back through the very rotational. But that's normal for an NFP day, okay? So they very rarely go into some screaming mad trend on the day of NFP. That always happens either a day before or they do it a day after. So maybe when our friends in the States come back from their beautiful Independence Day holidays, then maybe we'll see some more initiation in crude oil for maybe further downside or maybe a bit of a relief rally to the upside. I don't know, but yeah, NFP is usually range bound. Then NFP comes, then all hell breaks loose. Then you wait for it to settle, and then you look for another setup. At least that's how I do it. So, did you Here about China banning retail gold futures trading from the end of this month might impact Shanghai liquidity. I mean, I don't think so, because the retail trading, I don't think it's as big in China, especially not on metals as it is. Like, you know, Shanghai is very much an institutional exchange with a lot of size. And as of now, as far as I'm concerned, the only asset class where the retail has overshot the institutional is the equities, and mainly is the QQQs and SPYs. That's the only place where that's happened. And that's in the options activity. So before you used to have like maybe 35% of retail accounting for all options activity, and the institutional was the rest of it. But as of like a year ago or so, maybe a year and a half ago, retail is 55%, and then the rest of it is institutional. So that's scary, right? But I don't think that the metals fall under that. Like, remember, you have a lot of users and producers of the metals. They're not like equities. They are, you know, the biggest people who purchase all of the metals, including industrial and precious. They will be commercial hedgers. And retail, no matter how much they try, they will never be large enough to compete with the demand of an institution for a particular metal. Okay, so, and similarly, you know, if you have something like an airline, if we go to energies markets, and the airline wants to hedge against the crude oil prices going higher because this is, you know, pretty low. So what would they do? And what would their size be? It would be so much size to hedge themselves permanently. It like the retail, you would need like, I don't know, 1 billion people trading their ones and twos in order to get anywhere near the institutional size in the actual underlying contract value, right? Maybe not 1 billion, you know, obviously I'm over exaggerating, but you would need a whole bunch of people to be doing the same sort of strategy that the commercial hedger is doing in order to impact any sort of liquidity. And then don't forget that a lot of gold and copper and everything, they have dedicated market makers, right? So they contribute to the liquidity. So it's not as easy to just go, oh yeah, we're just gonna ban retail and that's the end. The market liquidity comes from institutional dealers, right? Like I said, the only place that that's not the case anymore would be the equities. But that's why we trade metals, right? Dave says, I like my 2 Apex legacy accounts, but no copper. I've got copper on Apex. It's only the full copper though. They don't do micros. The only people who do micro copper, I think, is Top Step. I don't know if there's another firm who does micro copper. Could I get a link to your blog post? Yeah, so if you just go to Market Stalkers, now there's a blog link, but I will put it. There's only 3 of them at the moment, right? I will put the link to the blog. Here we go. What prop firms do I recommend? So, look, I go to certain prop firms because, again, algorithmic trading, so I'm very limited. I have 3 that I really like, and I know one of them is subject of a lot of stick online, but I still like them. I don't know, sue me, right? So it's Tradeify, Trade Day, and Apex. They're the 3 that I'm finding that Apex now, after the dashboard overhaul, I suppose you can call it, is really easy because it just tells you. It tells you how many days have you had profitable, are you eligible for a payout, are there any soft breaches, like for example consistency rule, which is 50%, very generous. So to me, Apex is actually still right up there. Took a payout, I think it was about last week, no problem at all. Tradeify is excellent. Tradeify is like rapidly rising to the top of that list. I have 4 Tradeify accounts. I love all of their offering. So I did a mix of sort of growth Lightning and Select Flex, just to see how they all work. Select Flex, I find that it's great if you want like no consistency or whatever, but it is more like a traditional sort of loss limit and the traditional same sort of tighter maximum drawdown and whatever. But the Lightning fundeds I'm really enjoying because they have bigger allowances. So on the 100K Lightning, which is what I quite like, but I do have 150K, you get straight off the bat 2.5 grand of daily loss limit, right? Then you go over the target, which is 6K, and they automatically expand that to 4K. So you have a lot of room, right? And I took 7.5 grand's worth of payout from Traderfy alone last month. So, you know, that's, yeah, those are my 3 firms. Trade Day I adore, but they suspended copper. Now, I did go for a drink with James Thorpe, and he did say he's going to review the metals for us. They're also bringing out Rhythmic on the 6th of July. So if you are, you know, pining for Rhythmic, you're going to have it at Trade Day. So they're a great company. I think their dashboard needs to be a little bit reorganized and a little bit simpler because there's a lot of crap up there. So yeah, that's the only kind of critique that I have of them, that the website is not the most intuitive. And you know, if they fix that, I actually think that they have the potential to be one of the biggest firms. But you know, I don't know why more people don't know about Trade Day, frankly, because you know that yes, they did this whole thing with all, you know, quick pay is end of day in funded in evaluations, but kind of turns intraday in the funded. But FastPass does not do that. FastPass is literally 3 days to pass, 45% consistency. Once you're in, it's very much like Top Step. 5 days of certain minimum, and you get your money. End of day, right? End of day eval, end of day funded. So there are choices there. So to me, I would prefer to go FastPass on Trade Day. However, some people will still go for quick pay because they don't want the consistency in the funded. It's just that I don't want to spend 5 to 7 days grinding it out in you know, bloody evaluation, you know. I've gotten to that point where I just can't be bothered with evals anymore. But you know, I've been doing the online prop for 11 years, so there is that. Coach Hoop is here. Hey, Coach Hoop. So, since I'm going to be doing Asia next week, people have asked if I can get one of my old colleagues to come and trade Asia with me. So let me know. And again, me and Hoop, we chat all the time, right? So we're literally on the phone all the time. He's one of my closest buddies. So it would be cool to have a trading session with him. So yeah, let me know. So I don't like trading, but TradingView seems like the simplest. Yeah, so I don't know whether you noticed, but all of these are my indicators, Blahtech indicators. It's an ecosystem. We've actually just got notice that Blahtech Market Profile and Blahtech Daily Range is actually approved by Ninja, so that will be coming out. I need to bring up the new website for Blahtech that will have like all the, you know, fancy stuff in it. And the rest of them are coming as well. So all of that, you will notice that I'm not the simplest trader, right? So I use 4 pillars to make up my mind of what I should be doing. How are we doing for time? Okay, so 15 minutes to NFP. I have to have situational awareness. I'm not somebody who just looks at the signals and goes, FBG, let's go in. Like, FBGs mean fuck all to me, right? So I basically want to know what Asia did. And then I want to know how we're opening in relation to yesterday's distribution curve, aka the value area. How much of the range have we spent already, right? How much did we move? Is there 80% left? Is there 5% left? And if the range was exhausted, maybe we have an abnormal day on our hands. So all of that to me, brings me situational awareness. That's why I can generally adapt to nearly every market condition. But you take away my workflow and I fucking fall apart. Like, I'm not going to sit here and go, well, yeah, I can trade through TradingView. First of all, you can't undock charts, right? Okay, maybe you can on the desktop, but a lot of the firms these days, they're going down the road of TradeC, which is white label TradingView. Top-Step X, same thing, white label TradingView. And then you're just stuck at the same sort of literally same 3 charts or 2 charts or whatever, or everything's like bunched up on the same screen. And I start to lose the plot because I don't see, anything. And if I show you how big my workspace is for my bots and stuff, so I'm just going to move OBS here. And it's a bit messy because I was doing websites and stuff, but this is how I copy trade, right? So each of these has certain strategies attached to them per each account, right? So massive. So you tell me, can I do that in TradingView? Probably not. Definitely not. Doesn't work for me. I am both an algorithmic trader and a discretionary trader. And I have to have large sort of 5-6 screen setups. Why? Because as a commodities trader, I need to know what's happening across the board. So I actually always look at the sectors, right? So I'm looking at 4 different metals. I'm looking at 5 different equities. I have a screen with Mag 7 up in case I want to do equities trading. I have energies markets with crude oil, RBOB, heating oil, which is basically a crack spread, and natural gas. So by looking at all of that, this is just how I operate, right? My brain is able to take a lot of information, and that's what I'm comfortable with. I'm very nosy, so I want to know what the other sectors are doing and how that's correlating with the particular product that I want to do. So right now, I can see that the crude oil is the weakest out of all of these, right? Going into NFP. Gold, pretty much flat. Copper, pretty much flat. Let's have a look at some metals, other metals. Silver is actually a little bit more lively than the rest of them because it's got more of a trending curve to them. To the movement. If I look at the energies markets, and if I look at heating oil, crude oil, and RBOB, again, I can see that RBOB is the strongest out of the 3, and crude oil is the weakest. So that spread between the 3 is there at the moment. So, if you are somebody who trades the crack spread, that could be an opportunity to grab a little bit of money using a very particular ratio across the 3. Very particular ratio. It's something that the commercial hedges do a lot. John says, with Tradify, I found out that may be helpful is I chose Rhythmic with TradeC. I didn't like TradeC and asked Tradify, and they said I can use Quantower with my Rhythmic account. Yeah, so for most Rhythmic connections, you should be able to use Quantower. And Quantower is an excellent platform. Again, you can undock screens, you can put them wherever you want, you can put a million of them. It's very much like NinjaTrader, so I'm fully down with Quantower. But again, the Quantower thing, you can even connect Top-Step X with it. However, live accounts don't work on Quantower. So we go back to the same problem where I kept ending up in live accounts, and you can't use platforms that I'm more used to and more comfortable with. So I personally cannot trade with TradingView. I really can't. It's too small for me. It's too compact. And I feel like I have to keep flipping between different things. Like maybe if you trade one thing, that would work perfectly. But we're talking, I've been doing this for 20 years. I didn't start yesterday. And I know what I'm looking at. I'm perfectly able to look at across the board what I want to trade. And at a glance, because of my little fancy indicators and tools and data, I know what setup is the strongest, right? And I can appreciate that, some people might find this overkill, but this is just the way I trade, so. Take it or leave it. Roving Canuck says, love the stream. Thank you, thank you. The Rhythmic data feed for Quant Hour is so much better than the Project X data feed. It's night and day. Yeah, I don't know what data feeds X uses. Because I know they go through plus 500, so I suppose whatever plus 500 has as a data feed. I love CQG in general. Obviously on prop, all of these are trader rate. Because Rhythmic, they don't have things like RBOB, copper. Like for example, if I'm on trader rate, I can trade RBOB on Apex, right? But if I'm on Rhythmic, you can't. And then also on trader rate, I can buy Eurex data subscription, which I run every single month. And then I have DAX, and then I can even have Bund. I'm not much of a fixed income trader, but you know, it is there. You can do ICE products if you want Brent crude. You know, you have the ICE data exchange. So that is something that's extremely important to me, to be able to have the Eurex products for the days when I want to trade DAX, and to be able to have things like copper, RBOB, like all of the weird stuff that I trade. I want the option, right? And for that reason, you know, some of the smaller offerings that some prop firms have in regards to the white label TradingView, that just doesn't work for me. And I heard that some of them are super glitchy, so, you know. I like to go to stable. NinjaTrader has been around for donkey's years. It's not the prettiest looking platform, but it does what it's supposed to do, right? It's a stable platform. It's a proven platform. It doesn't have to look that pretty, you know. We're not here to you know, do a fashion show. We're here to trade. And, you know, now obviously I tried to make my indicators look all pretty because I want, you know, to have everything at a glance. So we have these little panels that kind of chew up, you know, certain bits of data, and they aggregate them, and I can just look at my Blahtech DR panel here, and I can see that we've gone about 85% on the day of the daily range. And then I also have little lines to tell me that as well. So it's like average session range for London has been traversed 80%. So how much room do we have? Well, for London, not much. But the overall ADR is actually a little bit bigger. So we have more room. And I can see that through data, numbers, everything. So yeah, simple is not my middle name. How many computers am I running and what configuration? It's just one monster computer. So I actually had to get a new computer when I moved into this place last year in May, primarily because my old computer didn't survive the move. When it arrived here, there was a massive dent in my desk, and obviously something fell on top of the computer and it smashed something. So I literally had to order like a new computer there and then, and it arrived 3 days later. I worked on my laptop, which again was a bit of a pain, but I had to be on Top Step TV at that time, so I had no other option. I couldn't just go, hey guys, yeah, I'm just gonna disappear for a week. Yeah, it arrived. So since then, this computer for now is very powerful. I can tell you what I'm running. I just need to bring out the properties because it's not something I look at every single day. So there we go. 8-core processor, right? AMD Ryzen, 64 gigs of RAM. Where's the graphics? What's a graphics card? Graphics card, multiple GPUs. I have one of the GeForce ones. That's probably somewhere else. Let me remember where that goes. No, it's still that. Do I do my programming on the same computer too? Yep. Let me catch up and chat here while we wait. 3 minutes. 3 minutes till NFP. We have 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. Let me have a look. Ninja used to be the standard for futures trading at one point. I think it still is. I'm sorry. Unpopular opinion. Jay Sim says I still use Ninja for my personal, much better than Thinkorswim. Yeah. So Doom Lord uses Thinkorswim, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thinkorswim is a good platform. I like it. Right, yeah, so it's RTX 5060 for the graphics card. Yeah. NPC says, thanks for answering my questions. Take care. See you next time. See you next time, dude. Great to see you. Thanks for hanging. Always good. If you're running 8 monitors, you must have 2 cards. I think I have more than 2 cards, to be honest. But yeah. NinjaTrader has GAT. Yeah, GAT has been a little bit buggy since I don't know, he vibe coded it or something. I mean, I don't know. I still find that I use it for like profit taking, right? So I wanted to cut me off because of the consistency rules in Tradify. So I don't really use it for like daily loss limits. There's maybe a couple of days where I like smacked the full daily loss limit, and that gets painful because that's like 11, 12K down across all accounts. Like, but yeah, generally I because of the way I trade, right? So I have a couple of trades in Asia, typically 1 or 2, then maybe 1 during London, then maybe 3 or 4 in New York. But you know, overall I work in like segments on the day, and then if I run out of segments on the day, there's no more trading. So I very rarely have a day where I'm just wrong, like every single session. It's like smash, 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 0% hit rate. Very rarely. Not never. Not never. It does happen, but that's usually my fault. There's usually something else happening. I'm either having brain fog or, you know, somebody's pissed me off or something. There's never... All right, here we go. NFP, going crazy. I need like the pom-poms, right? All right. What is the number? What is the number? Do we know? Do we know? Let's look at tape on gold. Look at that. Look at that. This is the algos. The algos. Hit as a sweep. Hit as a sweep. Oh, ouch. 57K, man. That's terrible. That's like... Wow. That's probably quite possibly one of the worst NFP numbers I've seen. Like ever. That's a massive miss. Now, this kind of a number is a repricing moment, right? So it's like, I wouldn't try and fade this now, because 57K for the size of the US as a country is absolutely pathetic, right? That's going to be an interesting day. So this could be a nice repricing. So what I'm thinking we're going to see some hedging around this gamma flip, and we got to that gamma flip in like that. But yeah, I think they're gonna mess around a little bit, and then they're just gonna go higher because on gold, because that's terrible. That is awful. I don't know whether I've ever seen a lower number. Has anybody ever seen a lower number? Ahmed, when we have NFP, there's no bias. Because, you know, you are waiting for a release like this one that can completely change everything coming forward, right? Interest rate decisions, how the monetary policy is looking at the entire economy, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. So this is one of the big four releases that has a massive impact on how the Federal Reserve is going to approach, you know, whatever they do next. So whenever you have NFP, FOMC, any rate decision, CPI, PPI, there's no bias. You have to wait for the release and then see when the dust settles, what's out there, right? Just don't hold positions into big releases. Sometimes you might get lucky, but if you are in a sim account, you might get away with that. If you're in a live account, even if you're right on the day, you might find that there's a huge reversal before they continue, and then there's nobody to take your stop loss or your take profit, and then you just can't exit. And that's nothing to do with platforms. That is a lot of it during these sort of types of releases is literally the liquidity is just not there. Like you can look at how thin the dome is on gold. Look at that. Look at how many gaps it's got. Like this is gold, right? And now we have liquidity sitting somewhere around 407 or something. I can't even see the number because it's like such a massive move, right? But yeah, I'm guessing they're going to go higher. So they're going to try and dick around here around this gamma wall, gamma flip. Maybe do a little bit of a squiggle down towards 4110, 4110. Just added a number there. Why not? And then we're going to see a push. Or they could just kind of keep going. But that's a rarer event. Usually there's a bit of take profits, you know, whatever algos did this. They usually take profits and then make everybody as miserable as possible, and then they keep going higher. So yeah, I'm waiting for the dust to settle, probably until about, let's say, an hour before the London closes, and then I'm going to have a look if there's anything on copper. But yeah, so far just scratch day for me. This is not really, I haven't even started. It was just like, bots lost some cash, I got some cash back, and now we're sitting scratch. So look at BOOKMAP. So let's remove copper because I'm not going to trade it now. And I think this is interesting to watch. So let's get rid of this as well. So you can see side by side how the tape events look on the actual price chart. But look at the amount of sweeps. This is like all institutional algorithms. Boing, 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 boing. All right, so we have a mega call wall, but I think all of this is now going to be a cause for an acceleration through them. Quite obviously, I don't have a setup, because when it runs away like this, I don't do caveman trades. Caveman is just literally point, click, and pray. Just kind of like, we're not going to do that. But yeah, some of the hypotheses that you could consider is if the market settles down, and then maybe, like, let's do a hypothesis. We go above the 4150 mega call wall, because this ain't stopping. Then at some point we have a pullback down. So after we smash through it, down to 4150, and in between the gamma flip at 4150. So at that point, I might want to look at a continuation trade with the direction of the release. And this is now probably going to cause a P-shaped day. Mark my words. What's a P-shaped profile? It's when this sort of short liquidation happens, and then for the duration of the next sort of like 2-3 hours, they literally just settle in a new distribution curve. So what you do there, you drag out your volume profile or the Blahtech MP indicator, and you look for the developing value, which is orange lines on our indicator, to start creating a new sort of range, and that becomes your reference. So what I like to do, I like to look for pullbacks down to the developing value, low in this case, and then look for longs with the direction of the move. So that's one way to approach it. Fading it, I don't know, I might fade it if we get to like COMEX end of day and they really haven't done anything. Maybe there's a fade there, but in light of the release being so terrible, 57K jobs only, that is atrocious. Is there any redeeming quality in the others? Unemployment rate, I suppose it's in line. Unemployment claims a little bit less, but still in line. 216K was the estimate, 215K is what came out. But this non-farm number, like literally atrocious. It's 57K. They expected 129K. Sorry, 129K was a previous one, so they expected 114K. We got 57K. It's like, what happened? Yeah, the numbers will be revised. You're absolutely right, Bit Blanco. So what they do, they typically, you know, the ADP number, well, that's kind of an estimate of what NFP should be. I have a beef with that number because it's not real. Because it's just like, well, depending on some of the data that we've received, we think that it's going to be, and it's usually nonsense. So there's like constant revisions that happen both to the ADP and the NFP number. So it's like, yeah, no, we got the number, but actually we overshot on that as well. And then about 2 weeks later, you get yet another sort of a buried sort of press release that they've revised the NFP number. It's like, what are you doing? It should be an aggregate or actual hard data. Why is it being revised? Like, who didn't report and why? Good luck. Yeah, good to see you. Have a good one. I'm going to bounce soon, too. Yeah, John, you're not going to have a good time. Yeah, correct. The equities are going up. They're correlating, but again, they're correlating with gold, positive correlation. So also remember that equities are an odd animal. Like, they will search for the actual supply where they can sell off. So sometimes with the releases, it's not about the release itself, right? So it's about where the institutions can push it to. It's an excuse to push it to some levels before they completely run it over. We can look at ES. Let me, I do have to find a chart with the actual real correct numbers. Now, I'm sorry, this is white. I am sorry, this is white. And where's the GL? What's happening with GL? Let me put the GL indicator on again. What's happening with my GL indicator on ES? That's weird. a different chart. So let me just grab TradingView because Blahtech GL is something weird is going on with the ES and Ninja. Okay, here we go. Let's see what they want to do with this, whether they smash it back down. So this is our Blahtech GL on TradingView. Same thing that these lines are representing, just different platform. Yeah, so at the moment, we smashed through 75.50 moderate core wall. There's another one up here. Let's go up to a 30-minute time frame. So where's the high? This is the supply here. Not sure they'll be able to get over the supply. So see, they hunted at the moment. They were, what am I doing? See, TradingView, I'm just always fighting with their bloody indicators. And drawing tools. Why doesn't it change to an arrow? He wants it to change to an arrow. Right, so we've hunted the supply on a 30-minute time frame. They might even smash through that in that reverse, but let's see what happens. Let's go to a 5-minute time frame. And let's have a look at ES here on BOOKMAP. It's going to take a little while to load. I'll give it time. So sometimes if they were expecting, you know, interest rates to be cut or something, this might cause them to reevaluate. But yeah, let's see what happens with this supply. Because they've hunted it, we're there, they're struggling. Do they go higher? And remember that the macro side can sometimes take a day to actually show up. Because they have to discuss. Because all of this is just reaction from the algorithms, right? But it is a cause for repricing, so it just depends what they want to do. It is a terrible number, though. So in theory, we should see a reversal in equities. In theory, it doesn't always work in practice. Full disclosure. John says, with GC, it basically went straight up to your posted data range high of 41.45. Yeah, that's the thing with average ranges. They just whoosh, and then they stop. And then, you know, they can go further, but the statistical averages are something that hedge funds use. It's a volatility measure. It's as simple as that. It's why they work. See, once I worked that out and I started putting them on the charts as levels, I was like, oh, wow, that felt good. And then for years, I was just like salivating over how amazing ADRs are. Just shows you how nerdy I am. But yeah, ES. We're going to get Delta. Delta bowling. They're certainly fighting here. So I'm going to hang around for, you know, another 15 minutes or so. Then I'm going to bounce. And yeah, I'll see if I can drag Hoop onto the show next week for Asia. Well, they're not immediately moving through the supply, right? So that's one observation. they would need a hell of a lot more volume to go through this area. Do you know what? Let's see what Mentor Q is saying. Because they sometimes, although they wouldn't have levels, we've kind of overshot. Let's have a look. This is all very messy now. Like, they're not really doing anything. They're just like hanging. They're like going, hey man, so what do you think of the NP number? I'm like, yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? That's me imagining traders in the pit, right? So you want to buy some more here? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure. We're going to get delta divergence? No. Yeah, so we do have a cluster of end of day levels from Mentor Q. So GEX3, GEX2, GEX1. This was there last night. Now, since this morning, these have become less relevant, but sometimes that can be an interesting situation. Let's go up to a 15-minute time frame. I mean, they are fighting. Delta's falling. Are we gonna get a fierce reversal? Fierce reversal. What are the metals doing? Okay, so it stopped at the mega core wall, gold. Interesting. So yeah, anytime I see like bunched up levels like this, it typically means, not always, obviously I can just kind of smash through it, but it can mean a bit of a chop zone, right? Because like so many of them are there, so one of them hits into GEX2, some people will hedge. Then another person hits GEX3, and then some people will hedge from there as well. So it just all becomes this push-pull tug of war between the dealers. And it never, like I want to see a very good distance from one level to the next. And you can see on my indicator, this is, last night, this was end of day gamma wall from Mentor Q. Today, as the day developed, because I update my Blahtech GL throughout the day, it is a moderate call wall. So it's still a relevant level, but it's no longer a gamma wall. Now the question is, how much cash would I need to try and short this? Is it expensive? If it's too expensive, I'll just go to micros. Oh no, it's not. Right, so this is not even that big of a level. Interesting. Delta keeps falling. This is why it's kind of calling me to short it. Let me have a glance at the 5-minute chart again. It is calling me. Yeah, don't like that just yet. I need to have a look at why ES is not printing the levels here. By the way, those of you who have been the users of Blahtech indicators before, you'll be quite happy to know that we've managed to put nearly all of the similar hotkeys in there. All right, let's go. Let's go. Now, this is a bit too much of a target. Right, are we gonna get some traction here? Sorry about the white charts again. Yes, I'm a psychopath, we know. Any traction? Any traction? What's the time? Okay. And only on one account, because I'm, again, not a core equities trader. But sometimes after this release pre-market, especially if it's like against what the release actually should be, they do kind of run it back. So this could be considered an exhaustion volume bar. This big middle candle. The market flipping us off. Wide stop, way outside of the high. Delta's rising again. Don't really like that. We need a low below 75.67, and we need a close below that to properly get some sort of a traction to the opposite side. All right, push. Delta's still falling. Falling, falling. Come on, Dover. Move your blooming ass. Let's see. How come you don't use Sierra chart? You don't like the techie snob cult? No, to me, Sierra is almost like a glorified like Excel spreadsheet. Like, I know that they have coding and stuff, but it's all a bit weird. So, you know, Ninja has C#, and yes, Sierra, you can kind of connect things into it and whatever, but I don't know, somehow I always found just the user interface and everything a little bit clunky. I could never find my way around, even when I was much younger than I am now. Go figure, right? So sometimes you just don't connect to a platform for whatever reason, right? We don't have to like all of the platforms, right? If you're loving Sierra, yeah, it's a good platform. It's just that I somehow couldn't really, I don't know, I couldn't connect to it for some strange reason. And yeah, you're saying because I'm very technical, normally work way around code and other platforms. Yeah, I know. On paper, it sounds like it should all work out, right? And yet, somehow. All right, new low, yes, new low. Can we get to 75.15? Now this is, you know, effectively a massive single print, right? So we need to see whether we can actually get some traction. Another thing I've noticed, where am I? Yeah, this whole ES chart is a bit weird actually, because I should have like profiles on it. And sometimes the charts actually get messed up. All right, now that I'm in and we have some sort of traction, here we go. Okay. So yeah, is this excess? Is this excess? That's the question. This is like you guys seeing me claw back the bot loss overnight. We did one partial crude oil, and we're kicking and screaming here, trying to drag this day into some positive. So yeah, it's not all roses with the bots, right? Sometimes you wake up and you're down on the day. So you're like, eh, now what? Nothing. You have to take it like a man. Or a woman. Yeah, you can't be emotional over P&L. You know, it's just one of those things where, you know, you know, obviously everybody loves when, you know, I'm up like 10, 12, 16K. And that is most days. But some days are easier than others. Some days are bloody difficult where you feel like you're just fighting everything. But you still end up, you know, good on the day. Today, bizarrely, I'm not feeling like it's like super stressed or anything. It's just like, okay, the bot's lost. I'm doing pretty well, so I'm reading the market okay. Pulling the trades off when they need to be pulled off. Drop, drop, drop. Yeah, so the whole idea here is to drag the bots out from the drawdown, and then we're going to find a smashing trade sometime later. Right, so let's watch what happens here, because we are still falling, but I'm kind of getting a bit of a screwy CVD reading here. Somebody's fighting. Do we have anything on momentum Q? No, there's nothing. Can we drop a little bit more? Pretty please, please. Do you think it would be worthwhile to trade this evening for Friday with the early New York holiday close on Friday? Yeah, because Asia, remember Asia doesn't have Independence Day, so it's like business as usual for them. I don't know whether, you know, tomorrow when you get to the US session open, because it's only, you know, it's only till midday, isn't it? But it's still, it's gonna be quiet. So I would probably focus on Asia and then not do anything else. All right, guys, I'm gonna grab wherever we are here now, because we are starting to get a little bit of a messy delta and jumping, but I clawed it back, so we're practically zero on the day. Remember, this is 8 accounts, right? It's not just like one. So I managed to bring the total P&L on the day back from the 900 that the bots did overnight. And the only thing that remains for me this evening or today is to find a pretty nice high probability copper trade. And that is not going to happen now. It's not going to happen in the next hour, but it might happen in and around the London close. Sort of like ballpark sliding scale about an hour into it. So yeah, we did an ES trade. Yippee, you know. Like, mark this on your calendar. When did the do any ES trade? 2nd of July NFP pre-market. So there we go. Not bad. But yeah, so the reason why I exited is because I saw Delta getting a little bit sticky here. And then we started getting them trying to push. Now, when you get that CVD pressure to the opposing side, that is very dangerous to kind of keep holding. And that's where you're like, now, okay, we've gotten as much as we possibly could. It might go lower, but look at it. So now it's trying to make a lower low, but the delta pressure is continuing up. This is now bullish divergence. So we might just shoot back up where it came from. So yeah, so I'm happy with that. We are scratch on the day. Again, not every day can be tens of thousands. But yeah, so bots 0D1. Sometimes it's bots 1, D0, you know, but not today. All right, that's gonna be it, guys. So guys and girls, thank you so much for hanging with me. So next week, because of the new heat wave, we are going to do Globex session. So I'm going to put the Tokyo start time, but we're not going to do Tokyo. We're going to do half an hour into Tokyo to allow the session to do something. And that's going to be on the title. I'm going to put it in the community post as well. Maybe even on my Twitter, just to let everybody know. And then we'll see whether we can find some trades next week. If I don't see you, have a lovely Independence Day. Happy 4th of July to my American friends. I know that over here that's not much of a holiday in England. But yeah, I know that it's a great opportunity to get together with family, have some good food, you know, catch up with some people, and at the end of the day, relax and spend some time away from the charts and come back fresh the next week. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for joining me. This was the Metal Markets. I'm Marcus D, and I will see you next week for the Globex session. Take care.